Hey, Redcon Trader here, and welcome back to Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader. As today, with the bulk of our colony stuff settled, we now turn our attention to other things. We've already tended to Abelard. That wasn't too bad, so now we set our sights on Heinrichs. Not exactly someone we're on the best terms with, but still. He is, I suppose, technically our Master of Whispers, so I guess we should keep him in good working order. So, that said, let's go make a super photonic man out of him. Sadly, that does mean that Abby has to sit this one out. Though I do notice that Heinrichs took the liberty of booting Cassie out of the party. We're going to have words about that later. Now let's go get hooked on photonics? Yeah, I'm not really sure what to do with that one. Let's go kill some Drukhari. I mean, yeah, I hate to say it, but we ran into them in orbit, so this is almost certainly more Drukhari shenaniganery. With a Chaos Chaser, since obviously there was something going on with the sun, too. No immediate events on arrival, so let's start poking around. The landing strip for cargo shuttles is strewn with rubbish. You notice a few reddish-brown spots. Veg?
Mistress Cabela, have you ever demonstrated special abilities inaccessible to ordinary people? Ever experienced amazing insights or the ability to influence the minds of others?
I hear what you're saying, and I do not like your insinuations. I warn you, if you attempt to paint the Undying One's blessing as foul psycherism, you will answer for it in blood.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Heinrichs and I might not see eye to eye on everything, but we're obviously of a like mind on Cabela's blatant psyker abilities. But she's pretty deeply rooted in her denial. The vanquished aircraft obviously fell from a great height. Too much time has passed now to determine the cause of the crash. I mean, it can't have been that long. It's still on fire. Blasphemous litanies, hand flamer cartridges. Interesting mix. The spikes have been fashioned from whatever their creators had to hand. This pitiful barricade is unlikely to stop anyone who is determined to get through. The powerful smell of promethium lingers in the air around the burning mechanism. The machines were doused with the accelerant and set alight. Interesting. Not sure how much to read into the random caches of cargo we're finding, but... Oh, hey guys. Well, look at that. We seem to have found our survivors. That was easy.
I always keep my options open.
The sentry rubs her eyes and gawps at you. One half of her face is covered with a bulky, rusty augment of unknown purpose. You came. You came to rescue us. Praise the God Emperor, it reached you. The sorcerer's message reached others like him. May he rest in peace. We are most honored by your presence. Please, come forward, quickly, out of the darkness. The woman hurriedly checks a nearby lumen, her hands visibly shaking. Those creatures come from the dark, you see. But not for much longer. Not for much longer. And now you're here, and Mistress Lichtenhart has already found a way to help us. Heinrich dourly listens to the sentry's speech. He takes a few steps forward and intently peers at her face, as the woman herself freezes in fear. Then Heinrich scowls and cuts a glance at you. We need to hurry. Oh? Even under the wavering lumens, you notice something strange. The slightly skewed proportions, the almost indiscernible asymmetry of her facial features. Looking at the other sentries, you see the same oddity in their faces, too. And the fact that they are all wearing the same strange, ramshackle implants, which clearly are not combat augmetics. Heinrich meets your eyes. Noticed, have you? Don't jump to any conclusions. It could just be a local genetic anomaly. It could be something else. We can't say anything for sure. Yet. Heinrich looks past the sentry. No need to be so dour, my friend. Apparently we're in luck. An entire planet, and we just happened to land right next to the person we were looking for. You mean Mistress Lichtenhart, my lord? We wouldn't have survived without her. It just so happened that she was here at a local excavation when the monsters started appearing. We've been losing contact with the other sites on the planet since then, like candles being snuffed out, one after another. The rest of them must have all perished. But we're still here, holding on. That's good. I'm glad you've survived. What exactly is happening here? It's terrible, my lord. I don't even know how to describe it. It's been, what? How long has it been? A few months, probably. A few months of being plagued by these sorcerous beasts. As soon as night fell, they came, creeping right out of the shadows, black as soot. There's no stopping them. The only thing that's worked so far is keeping the fires burning and maintaining a constant watch. And even with that, the creatures drag us off in ones and twos, the second we drop our guard. Heinrich furrows his brow. Sorcerous creatures from the shadows. Could they be demons? That would explain the presence of warp anomalies in the system. A local breach. So the fires are your doing. They must be effective, because there's no way these barricades would hold any real threat at bay. Please, my lord. The sentry is on the verge of tears. Do you think we are trained guardsmen? We're from the expedition convoy. We've lived here for generations, and up to now, the God Emperor has guarded us from misfortune. But now we have to fight. The survivors have all gathered in the tunnel. We've handed out what weapons we have, but how is that supposed to help us against these butchers when we don't always know how to use our weapons? Easy, friend. I was just making an observation. What's this about an expedition? Yes, about 30 years back, we were brought here with a load of clever people from some high Epideptus or something or other. And we've lived here ever since. I've raised 4 kids here. 2 died at the excavations. 1 was taken by the monsters. But my youngest is still alive. Wait, so have you lived here for generations, or have you been here for 30 years? I mean, I guess 30 years is plenty of time to have 4 kids. And for at least some of them to have grown to adulthood. Excavations. Perhaps the expedition, or rather, its objectives, were what Emelina was interested in. Of course, the easiest option would be to ask her directly. The interrogator shoots you a pointed, impatient look. Yes, by all means. I suppose we should go see Mistress Lichtenhart. I'm sure it'll be quite enlightening. Mistress Lichtenhart is inside, in the pit. You go on. Don't be afraid. She will be there to properly greet you. We'll stand guard. Thanks be to the Emperor for delivering you to us. Okay, now see, I wasn't afraid to go in there until you started suggesting I shouldn't be. Though I guess I could just chalk that up to nerves. I mean, honestly, just based on the context clues here,
Operation successful.
it sounds like they're under attack by mandrakes. Those are the classic sneaky, stealthy Drukhari. And I mean, obviously we know Drukhari are here.
Always keep your eye on the prize.
A giant gate barring the way to the excavation site. Okay, well, seems pretty clear out here. Let's head on in. See what happens. That chill. Where's it come from? The creatures! They're coming! Weapons ready! The God Emperor preserve us! And those are definitely mandrakes, right? So we're just up against more Drukhari. Man, we just cannot get away from these guys. But at least they go down easy. Let's do it to it. Yeah, I don't really recall much about mandrakes. I don't think they'd really been well defined back in 3rd edition, which is when I did briefly play with the original Dark Eldar Codex. I want to say, though, they were originally described as having, like, chameleonic skin. In fact, I want to say we pulled, I think we did pull a chameleon skin augment off of a dead mandrake back in Camorra. This, though, feels like something very different.
Activate calculated fury algorithm.
So I have to assume they got some pretty significant upgrades somewhere along the line. I stopped at 5e, so, I mean, I'm like 7 editions out of date at this point.
Running binaric override.
Alright, let's try to get these guys contained. We'll reel them all in, get Heinrichs on them. In theory, Heinrichs isn't quite as good a tank as Abby, since he requires more setup, but he should at least do significantly more damage. Also, he's a secondary buffer, whereas Abby's more pure tank. Though I don't think this fight's going to last long enough for it to matter. These guys actually seem pretty frail.
If I may.
All right, Ulfar, just help us keep these guys contained.
The wolf is on the hunt.
Last thing we want is for them to rush our back line. Not that we really have much of one at this point. It's really just Val and Cassia, I suppose. And Cass is basically a tank now, too.
Cubs play.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Apparently they get some sort of parting shot mechanic. One free attack on their way out the door. Slightly concerning, but not hugely so. Let's pin this guy behind us. Aw.
I can't stand it.
You know what, buddy? I appreciate your enthusiasm, but maybe leave this to us. I tried to warn you. But you just had to dig in. Yeah, Heinrich's doling out some halfway decent damage over there. Not enough to one-shot these guys, but pretty close.
Aim for the heart next time.
Plus, there's the Warp Fire Chaser. Why can I not? Death from above again? You should have more than one charge. Okay, well, we'll move the old-fashioned way, I guess. Oh, okay, well now we can do it again. Though, I mean, I guess it's not the end of the world. That did give us an excuse to finally use those knockback boots. That is something I really need to use more often. Especially now that we've got Dance Macabre. Yeah, we're not going to get the rest of the way out there too far. Maybe if we'd had that second charge earlier. So Dance Macabre really kind of mucks with the acrobatic escape. We'll have to keep that in mind. Heinrich's up next. We don't really need him, but we'll slap down some buffs.
Naturally.
I mean, it does feel kind of silly. There's only, like, 3 guys standing at this point.
For the throne's glory.
Yeah, just get in there.
I must not falter.
Oh, okay. There was one more back there.
Emperor, protect me.
Also, that prone guy's still alive. Really figured Kibble's inevitability would have finished them off. But they are essentially a non-threat in their current position.
I'll make it happen.
Val, didn't feel like taking a free shot? Okay, fair enough, I guess. Conserve that ammo.
Who if not me?
For now. That's gotta hurt.
Hey, good for you.
Emperor, protect me.
Here I was doubting you could actually contribute, but you showed me up in spades.
I can handle this.
All right, let's wrap this up. I keep stopping to think these moves through, and we really don't have to. We've got one guy left and like 6 people going before he does.
I'm afraid not.
Alright, dude, come on now. There you go. Huh, and no follow-up. Which, yeah, I guess makes sense. They did kill the person we were talking to on their way in. She shotgunned one in the face and then immediately died. Bit of a shame, that. Unless, of course, it turns out these folks are all cultists. In which case, I guess, good riddance, question mark? Alright, well. Mandrake's dealt with, half the guard dead. Let's go chat up Mistress Lichtenheart. See what she has to say about all this. I mean, chaos has to come into the equation here somewhere. And she's the most obvious access point. Heinrich's even told us she's got a head full of forbidden knowledge. Though, given the recent spike in Final Dawn activity, it's also entirely possible that the local expedition members are themselves members of the Final Dawn. Oh, you shouldn't have, my lord. Oh, shouldn't I?
Damn it! It's a Vox liturgy twisted by warp sorcery. Try not to listen too closely.
This altar would be unremarkable if not for the uncanny sounds streaming from its built-in speakers. What once was a Vox recording of a liturgical service is now a malevolent parody of the noble faith. Right next to a collection of potent heretical trophies. Yeah, he thinks we're starting to get an idea of what sort of expedition this might have been. Or at least what kind of excavation it might be. Okay, yeah, that's another fire to discourage the mandrakes. This might be similar to what we saw back on Reichad Philia, the prison planet. Boxes stuffed full of shards of pottery, metal, and other discarded human-made objects, covered in a layer of soil. A conveyor belt littered with a mixture of stone chippings and fragments of human-made items. The rust on the mechanical components indicates that this machine has stood idle for a very long time. Okay, so a picture is starting to form here, but a lore object or two would really help flesh things out.
Hunt brothers, take heed.
And here we go. Grimy, handwritten notebook. Plus a couple of consumables. Let's get a gander, trying to put these pieces together. The tattered notebook is missing part of its cover and half of its pages. The surviving sheets are covered with cramped lines of text that slope downward, written in an erratic hand. I still can't believe he's gone. Every time I'm at my post, I start peering into the darkness, and I think I see his shape in the gloom. Could the creatures have got into my head, beckoning me toward them so they can drag me off like they did Gandir? Lady Emelina says that these creatures, Mandrax, Druhi, can't get inside people's heads. We all listen to Lady Emelina, of course, but I'm not so sure she's right about this. How else can I explain what happens every time I close my eyes? I see runes burning in the dark, the same runes that creature was covered in. Is it a hallucination? Or someone getting inside my head? Heresy. Heresy outside, heresy inside. I hear laughter in the sermons we listen to in the chapel. But how is that possible? You're not supposed to laugh when you're at prayer, are you? No, laughing is bad. Praying more, that's good. Praying harder. Praying for the peace of Gandir's soul. And for ours, too. I see. Primitive excavating equipment suitable for use by unskilled workers. The well goes so deep you cannot see the bottom. The walls of the shaft reveal the marks of the machinery that drilled through the rock, as well as fragments of an ancient, sunken city. Yep, that tracks. They dug too deep. And then, much like back in Raikadi,
Is there money to be made?
the Drukhari are just hitting an easy target of opportunity. Though one does wonder how... Oh, there she is. The symbols on the skin must bleed. Again. Hold him tighter. God, Emperor, help me! The stooped figure draws back the hood of the grimy robe, revealing the emaciated face of a woman. Her skin is stretched taut over her skull, and sickeningly protruding augmentations, and her cheek is marred with several open wounds. She looks at you with a feverish gleam in her eyes. The visual description matches Interrogator Van Kalox. The sage blinks several times, and her head twitches. You made it here after all. Heinrich's usual mask of stoicism has melted away without a trace. He stares around him in undisguised dismay. Emelina, what is this? You're performing the archenemy's rituals? But, no, stop. Right now. Not another move unless I tell you. The sage draws herself upright, as far as her crooked spine will allow, and flicks several switches on her facial augments. Then she turns to you, ignoring Heinrich's words completely. Who have you brought with you, Interrogator Van Kalox? Clearance level. Valen von Valancius. Rogue trader and chosen of the Emperor. Emelina Lichtenhardt dips her head. Von Valancius, a rogue trader dynasty, territory to the galactic west of Furibundus. The head of the dynasty, Theodora von Valancius, has been flagged for her heretical sentiments. Threat level... Heinrich gestures at the room. I brought the help you requested in your message, Emelina. A void ship under the aegis of the rogue trader. I dragged thousands of people and megatons of plasteel and ceramite through the bowels of the warp. And for what? To discover that you have sold yourself to the archenemy? Emelina shakes her head. You are drawing conclusions based on incomplete knowledge of the situation, Interrogator Van Kalox. Your judgment is impaired. Heinrich, why is she talking to you like that? I expect that Emelina has chosen to seal the memory block, containing data of a personal nature. She does this whenever she is concerned that someone might try to extract information about Kalkazar's coterie from her. Heinrich thinks for a moment and then, in a clear voice, says, Sigma Prosperity. He pauses before repeating the strange phrase. The reminiscence block you're attempting to access was repurposed. It now contains knowledge of the rituals performed by the shamans of this place. My standard working memory alone was insufficient to record all the nuances I uncovered in my research here. Heinrich looks as though he's been punched in the gut. Emelina, you deleted the data about all the memories of Calcazar's unit? You wiped us all. Of course not. I retained the portion of the Reminiscence block's data relating to the operational significance of the Lord Inquisitor's unit. That is how I was able to recognize you, Interrogator Van Kalox. The Bloodspun Web is familiar with the practice of purging one's memory of all that gets in the way of duty. Cabela presses her lips into a line. But the void that is left in place of the excised memories must be filled with service. Otherwise, corruption will flood the soul, as it has flooded yours. What exactly is going on here? I came here on the supreme directive of the Lord Inquisitor. An Adeptus Historica mission was established on Phaeton 4 to study the origins of the civilization that once inhabited the planet. This world was once settled by humans. The mission aimed to discover which colony ship they came from and why they disappeared. The traces of the ancient culture uncovered in the layers of soil suggest the existence of primitive solar faiths amongst the dark inhabitants of this world, faiths that are strikingly similar to worship of the archenemy. The surviving scrolls indicate that shamans use the gifts of chaos to protect their people, to secure the harvest, to imbue their warriors with strength and vitality, and that this culture persisted for thousands of years. I was cataloging data when the attacks began at one of the remote outposts. I immediately recognized the enemy by their tactics. Drukhari. They chose an unremarkable, defenseless world where night lasts half the year. By the time 5 outposts had been swallowed by the darkness, the last astropath had been torn to pieces and many calls for help sent to Calcazar's unit had gone unanswered. I realized that no one was going to save these people, or this knowledge, and so I put the knowledge to use, for the good of humanity. Oh man, I mean, yeah, there's a point where Val would have actually agreed with that argument, and he still does to a certain extent, at least where Xenotech is concerned. But I think after the events back in Raikadi, plus a few other encounters since, it's really sort of swayed him away from using anything linked to the archenemy. Janus, Raikadi, Kiava Gamma to a certain extent. I suppose to him it would be kind of like a risk versus reward spreadsheet. And once you start dabbling in chaos, things get out of hand quick. Like, I get where she's coming from, but now we have better options. Now we have an actual ship to help evacuate these people. The problem being, of course, she's already started doing whatever it is she's doing, and, I mean, we've got Heinrichs right here. He's obviously not going to let this fly either. In fact, he's right here, might as well ask. Heinrichs, could you make sense of what I'm seeing here? It seems to me your compatriot has completely fallen to heresy. The notion of heresy is hardly applicable to the people in our line of work, Valen. But you are correct about one thing. Emelina has crossed the line that separates a servant of the Imperium from a deluded Chaos worshipper. I'm sorry to ask, but what are you trying to achieve here, Emelina? The ritual we interrupted. What is it supposed to do? Emelina lifts her gaze upward. It will rid this world of its half-year-long night, and the mandrakes of their total advantage over us. It will force a new heavenly body, this one of human making, to rise above the horizon and illuminate the dark side of the planet. If the ritual works, I will have mastered the secrets of forging a new sun. This is madness. Madness, pride, and monstrous, staggering heresy. Heinrich's voice is barely audible, as if his throat is closed up in shock. So you found this ritual here, in this sunken city. A ritual to bathe the world in perpetual daylight, to, say, give it its final dawn? Buried under silica and granite are knowledge and resources that could repel the enemies of humanity. We are too afraid of anything labeled prohibited. My memory contains thousands upon thousands of pages from manuscripts, tomes, and scrolls. Contact with any one of these is supposed to guarantee instant death. But the preachers who claim this are liars. I am living proof of their falsehoods. A fine time to show your true colors, Inquisitor. Let's see if you will do what is right, or once again, prove that you consider yourself above the rules. Lord Ulfar, with all due respect to you and your chapter, keep your mouth shut. Your skepticism is the last thing I need right now. Heinrich's buddy. Who I have become, Interrogator Van Kalox. I am what any agent of the Golden Throne is predestined to become, if they are able to see through the essence of things. I have, as the Puritans say, succumbed to the heresy of radicalization. Moreover, in doing so, I am only following in the footsteps of our mentor. The only difference is that I have chosen the path of the Oblationist, while he chose the Xenos Hybris, forging an alliance with the cursed Drukhari. I'm sorry, what now? That is a huge reveal. Which also does make sense. I mean, we already suspected that Calcazar was up to something. We knew he was keeping tabs on Theodora. I had previously speculated that it was Conrad and his agents who had worked out a deal with the Drukhari to further their own goals, but no, it would make a lot more sense for Calcazar to be the one doing it, considering we've also already seen that he's willing to bend or even just outright break the rules to get what he wants. Emelina, suppress your urge to debate internal matters in the presence of the rogue traitor. Additionally, I will not tolerate insults to the Lord Inquisitor in my presence. No, please, go on. I can already connect the dots, but I'd love to hear the full context. Why, it's just philosophical rhetoric referring to old men, with a weakness for demagogue. Actions are being driven by this philosophy, Interrogator Van Kalox. Mine, yours, the Lord Inquisitor's. Why are you avoiding talking about the fact that Xavier Calcazar is a dangerous radical? No less dangerous than I am, except I am not driven by utopian ideals, but by a desire to protect humanity, using a broader range of tools. What you call a broader range of tools is heresy, Emelina. Unremarkable, commonplace heresy. Heresy that has taken on a twisted form in a mind subjected to prolonged contact with corruption. The archenemy has been gnawing at you from within. Creating a star with a chaos ritual? You have crossed the line. No, you have obliterated the line. The line? Lines are for the weak and ignorant. Anyone capable of weighing the risks and making a calculated decision would have done the same as me. To protect the Imperium's domain. To deliver a preemptive strike even. Von Valancius, Emelina whips around to you. You are a simple mortal endowed with huge power and privilege, ruling over worlds and holding millions of lives in the palm of your hand. Tell me, would you have done the same in my position? Oh boy, don't drag me into this. I mean, I don't know, trying to create an entire new sun with chaos magic feels like a bit much. Especially now that there are, in fact, other potential options at our disposal. I might have. Once. But not anymore. I've learned that the hard way. Blinkered vision and a narrowed mind. A warrant of trade in the hands of such a person is a dangerous prospect indeed. Emelina shakes her head spitefully, her eyes filling with blood. The only one to answer my call, and you turned out to be a brainwashed pawn. I did not factor in the possibility of psychological dependence. Calcazar can be persuasive, especially to those who depend on him. A favored sorcerer, a Caspalican renegade. Oh yes, Interrogator Van Kalox, Xavier Calcazar's stalwart little soldier. You will die just like Tanakia. Emelina Iona Lichtenhardt, Heinrichs begins, stiffly formal, before breaking off. Tanakia? What do you know about Tanakia? Emelina shakes her head. You don't even know what fate befell her, do you? I suppose it won't hurt for you to know something of it. A strange sound causes the sage to fall silent. She turns toward the tunnel. The lights are going out. They're coming out of the mine. The beasts, they're here. The ritual must be completed. Enough. We need to block all possible approaches. We need might to dispel the shadows in the corners. Do we? I mean, I feel like these guys go down pretty easy, though. I suppose we may be looking at a rare scenario that requires more than simple slaughter. Okay, we can do that. I'm seeing two lights, one just down this ladder, the other down the stairs. Though I am now just realizing we have a room off to left here, like some sort of command room. I'm not sure if that was open before. We'll hit the closer lights, then maybe poke our head in there as well. Which may actually be relatively easy, considering how far out they're letting us set up here. Hask on one, Heinrichs pushes for the other, with Cassie's assistance. Val on Overwatch. Oh, Ulfar. Ulfar is problematic because he has to use the stairs. He can't use the ladder. So let's clear some room here. Cass should be able to get Heinrichs out of the way pretty quick. Once he's clear, Ulfar can then follow. And then Kibbs will just back up past. Don't think he'll need it, but, you know, just in case.
The Omnissiah knows all, comprehends all.
Oh, there we go. Nice. Perfect. Ah, and we do have a third lamp over here. Okay, yeah, let's go hit that one as well. So there are, in fact, other lamps that we couldn't see from where we started. That does somewhat complicate things. We'll definitely have to check that control room.
Running binary code.
Cass up next. Let's get Heinrichs moving.
Everyone, step aside.
No, we don't have time for buffs. Just lock these three down. Nice, nice. Now, Ulfar can also contribute. Very trivial damage on Kibbles. Absolutely nothing to worry about there.
Focus, Van Kellogg's. Focus.
For the glory of the Imperium!
Heinrichs, ever the drama queen. Also, I've got to say, bud, that was a very bold move. Point-blank shotgunning a Space Marine in the back.
Let's see to it.
Though, you know, Ulfar does have a pretty robust sense of humor. He'd probably be amused.
Stay vigilant. My faith strengthens me.
Cable's up next. Let's clear these two. No, hit this one first. And now the other.
Blade whispers your name.
Lamp 1 clear. As is Lamp 2 with Pask, so that just leaves Lamp 3. Plus whatever might be in the command room. Excuse me. And yes, just push the last. If this doesn't do it, we'll push the command room next. Nice. Wow, that was easy. Emelina lets out an agonized moan. Wasted. All my work, all my preparation, all for nothing. Emelina Iona Lichtenhart, in the name of the Inquisition, you are hereby removed from your post and expelled from the Holy Ordo. Heinrich's eyes are fixed on Emelina, but she does not look at him. Then the interrogator turns his gaze on you. The fate of its fallen member is a matter for the Ordo. Heretical archives, artifacts obtained in the excavation, and other assets in Lichtenhart's possession, I hereby declare the property of the Holy Inquisition. However, it is for the rogue traitor to decide what becomes of Baton 4 and its people. What is your verdict? Well, Heinrichs, I've got to say, this is really your area of expertise. What would you suggest? This world has been compromised. Any attempt to assess the degree of corruption will necessarily be based on weak judgment, vulnerable to doubt and sentiment. I would get rid of the planet and its population. And the archives, Miss Lichtenhart? The archives will be destroyed to prevent this situation from ever reoccurring. Emelina is my responsibility. Well, buddy, you know what? I respect how difficult this must be for you. How about we compromise? The planet's yours to do with what you wish, but the people come with me. If they become a problem later down the line, I'll deal with it. So be it, Lord Captain. Now, as for Emelina, you are hereby stripped of your special status as an agent of the Golden Throne and all attendant rights and privileges. I am authorized to use all interrogation measures stipulated in the standard framework for information extraction to ascertain the fate of Acolyte Tanakia Calbergaria. Will that be necessary, Emelina? No, Interrogator Van Kalox. The sage's voice is scarcely louder than a whisper. I have no intention of concealing that information from you. I am almost certain that Tanakia Calbergaria was eliminated on the orders of Xavier Calcazar after being deemed a volatile element. Heinrich's face is a mask of disbelief and anger. You're lying. I saw one of Calcazar's documents when I went to receive my new orders. Only a fleeting glimpse, but with my memory like a pict recorder, it was long enough for its contents to be imprinted on my mind. I do not know the details, but the document itself was an interrogation transcript, with a final annotation indicating the removal of the person from the retinue. And we both know how someone leaves the Lord Inquisitor's retinue, Interrogator Van Kalox. Tanakia is the Lord Inquisitor's top espionage specialist, wherever Xavier chose to refrain from making a public show of strength. Calbergaria was invaluable. Why would he do this? Emelina looks up at Heinrichs, her eyes full of despair. I do not know, Interrogator Van Kalox, just as I do not know why the Lord Inquisitor sent me to this nondescript planet as soon as I voiced my concerns about his methods. Just as I do not know if I should blame the warp for the lack of responses to my calls for help, or if Calcazar prohibited the others from answering. The nature of her mission, and of Xavier's true purpose here in the Expanse, was likely why he chose to bury this secret, and Tanakia along with it. Emelina breaks off. The operational data indicates that you are the retinue's primary torture specialist, Interrogator Van Kalox. All this time I thought you were the one who conducted Tanakia's interrogation, and one of the reasons why I destroyed my personal data block was to ensure that my own sentiments would not prevent me from thinking rationally when I next encountered you or Calcazar's other servants. Heinrichs? You still with us? Heinrich says nothing for several seconds, staring into space. At last, he begins to speak. Emelina Iona Lichtenhart. Emelina sighs. I know, Interrogator Van Kalox. I know all the procedures used on compromised sages. Interrogation, unsealing of reminiscence blocks. But before we begin, she stands up, straightening her spine as much as she can, and looks into the interrogator's eyes with a weak smile. I thought Tanakia was your doing, but as your reaction has revealed the truth to me. Heinrichs. It is Heinrichs, yes? There is a subtle shift in Emelina's voice. She sounds older, wiser. You should know. I am sorry to have forgotten you. Heinrich stares at the sage, saying nothing, then looks down and mutters something too quietly for you to hear. Heinrich turns to you. Thank you for your assistance in solving my problem, rogue trader. Oh, right, I guess he's actually just arresting her for now. So after everything she just said, you're still sticking to procedure? Why? Heinrich looks at you, his eyes dark and lowering. Why don't you answer that question for yourself? Well, based on our past interactions, I assume you'd say it's because, despite whatever she may have revealed, the knowledge she carries, the knowledge of the Archive, is simply too dangerous to exist. And thus, much like the Archive, she too must be destroyed. A reasonable and balanced assessment. An excellent conclusion. Heinrich makes no attempt to inject even the barest hint of conviction into his words. We are finished here. The planet will be designated unfit for further use. The risks are simply too great. It will take a few hours to deal with the excavation site and what the diggers found here. But it will not delay us. When we return to the ship, find a minute to speak with me. Yeah, I'll do that. And I suppose that does confirm our wardens just took Emelina on board, which itself feels like it might be slightly problematic, but, you know, we'll see where that goes. Same with these guys. We never did find out what the deal with those weird implants was. Though, I mean, of the reveals that we did get, there were definitely some doozies. Obviously unconfirmed thus far, but what Emelina there just told us certainly does make sense. That Calcazar himself is delving into no small degree of Xeno heresy himself, as part of some grand power play of his own. Not just Xeno heresy either. I mean, he did technically turn a blind eye to Theodora's apparent heretical indulgences as well. I would assume that whatever it is that he is planning is something stemming out of something she discovered, which he then took from her. Ooh, here we go. What's this? Strange debris is scattered across the table's surface. Your attention is drawn to the whimsical patterns on the broken pottery and tablets. But when you try to take a closer look, the world starts to swim before your eyes. Pretty stereotypical heretical hijinks. Instigator's Mantle. Taunting Scream works automatically. No willpower resistance test. That's actually not bad at all. I might have to toss that to Abby. Really comes down to what cloak he's currently got equipped. And Swift Shroud Cloak. Whenever the wearer is targeted by an attack of opportunity, they gain a stack of Swift Shroud. Also plus movement points. At the end of the turn, all stacks convert to a dodge buff for allies. Nah, way too fiddly. Also yet another flavor of medikit. We'll take it. Alright, well, at least we got something out of this. A modest amount of loot, a cloak we might actually use, and some pretty significant plot drops, which we would not have gotten had we kicked Heinrichs out sooner. Man, Kalkazar working with the Drukhari does explain so much, though. Including, I suppose, why they may have allowed Scalander to continue operating even after he was compromised, since Heinrichs did previously allude that they were aware. Anyway, we've got some weirdness going on with loot stacks here. Let me see if I can figure that out, but this is a good place to call it anyway. We'll hit the pause button for now. I will take care of some off-screen bookkeeping and try to unpack everything we just learned. And we will pick up here next time, as we have a follow-up chat with Heinrichs, and then figure out our next move. Honestly, though, I imagine we'll start heading back towards Footfall. We're in dire need of more Extractiums, and that's the only place I can think of that we might actually find some. Plus, you know, Jai's thing. Though, of course, we'll also hit up any rumor zones we happen to pass along the way. See you then. Oh, and special thanks to the Raiders, the fine folks who help make these videos possible, including but not limited to Eerie V23, Revenant, Eloise, Arrow Bowman, Dragon Matrix 7, Drakith, Egon Alter, Excelsior, Goatly, James Tremay, Kazorm, Lady Shayna, Mark Giemza, Nathan Welch Jr., Overlord Farum, Random Passerby, Robbie B, Thomas Piatkowski, Trip Hop and Skip, and Valenrook. Thanks for your support, guys. That said, if you'd also like to help support the channel, then feel free to push the buttons that do the things. Trust me, it does make a difference. Or you could even check out the PayPal, the Patreon, the Nexus GG, or the YouTube memberships. Links are in the description.
Try not to listen too closely.